Do you like angels? Would you like to know?
It's done it as a podcast, hasn't it?
You are listening to OTCR, the radio that shines and shares its light with you. OTC, OTC, OTCR, OTC, OTC, OTCR.
Hello everyone, I'm Peg Jones, and welcome to Wednesday's Whispers. Wednesday's Whispers is a part of Off the Cuff Radio, and I'm your host tonight. Tonight I have a guest, and his name is Stu Art, and he is the newest member of the OTC staff. The OTC staff, Off the Cuff staff. And I'll be speaking more about Stu in a few minutes. But let me introduce myself. I'm an author and a teacher and I work in the Akashic Records, and I am also an energy healer of Reiki and IET, which is integrated energy therapy. And tonight what I thought I would do is read a message from my book, as I hope to be doing each week that I have the show. And then after that we'll speak about Stu, and Stu can come on. I wanted to share today's message because the energies of all that's happening in our world, and also personally and professionally, and it can get a bit crazy on a couple of days here and there, and I always find a lot of comfort in hearing from the angels and what their message is, and I find that the messages from my book can be very helpful for myself and for the people that look at the messages. And I think a lot of the reasoning for the craziness has a lot to do with the energies that are going on right now, as we're kind of in the middle, or we're at the beginning of a Mercury retrograde. And it's in some ways, the Mercury retrograde will help us to shed what we no longer need in our life, to kind of help ourselves to go forward, to make that intention of what we truly do want in our life, as far as goals for our careers, for every aspect of our life, actually. And so I think because I think a lot of people get a bit nervous about when they hear about Mercury retrograde, but I think if you look at it as a way to kind of just, shed what you no longer truly need, what you want to truly make your goals, and to actually even write down the goals that you would like, and maybe write some positive affirmations for yourself and for the goals that you have. And so today's message is reach deep into your heart to connect with your soul. When you can look at that place of comfort and peace, then you'll know that God is near, or your source, and that your angels are all around you always. Knowing that God is near, you can feel the pulse of his love and goodness. We are in such confusing places at times, yet we can feel the love of our angels and God. Do not be afraid to go to that place, as no harm can come to you. And that place is, of course, your heart place. And then the journal exercise, and you might want to do this at some point, is to do a little bit of journaling. Do you feel that the love of God and of your angels today? Meditate and feel their love for you. Think about it and journal about it. So that might be something that you can do at some point between now and tomorrow to kind of, kind of ground yourself and to just, kind of have that time for yourself. Because I think we do live in a very busy world, and we have busy lives. And sometimes we forget to take that time for ourselves. And I think, when that happens, I mean, two things can happen. We can truly project, all kinds of scenarios, and half of which are not true, by the way. And we can kind of sometimes work ourselves into kind of a state, and so we just kind of have to take that time to kind of almost sit back and watch what our thinking process is, even though it may be difficult because, our mind can go a mile a minute, but to just take that time and to just watch how we respond, and just kind of be mindful of that. Just know that things are going to be okay. And when we respond through our heart, we do find more comfort once we ask our committee, called our ego, as I call it. We just kind of say, well, I think I'm not going to go there right now. I'm finding that how we respond to things is really something to pay attention to, because sometimes we just act on impulse, and so if we step back a little bit and just, and then, if our impulse is to respond, not so positive, then, just to kind of even say nothing, And another thing I'm learning, and they talk about it in the 4 agreements, is, not to take things personally all the time, because I think that we tend to do, and that can cause a lot of issues too. Our life is our life, and there's a lot of history behind how we are living. It can be upbringing, beliefs, what we were taught, and trying to make sense of it. I guess is in a lot of ways all part of the awakening. And knowing that we are evolving, every day. So, if anyone is in the chat, feel free to respond, or and if not, then maybe you can respond later after you listen to the show. But I want to introduce to you Stuart, and he is from the UK. He's our newest member. Actually, he's come back. He did help us last year as kind of our tech person. He's helped Sprinkles a lot with upgrading of the website and getting all kinds of bells and whistles put into the website, and he's really helped us a lot in getting organized and kind of taking a lot of that off Sprinkle's hands too. And he's from the UK, and he says that he let me see. He's a clairvoyant Reiki master and energy healer, and he refers to himself as a cyber geek from Arcteria, which I definitely want explanation about. And so, welcome, Stu. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show tonight.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
Great, thank you for having me on.
Very good. And I hear that it's your birthday, so I'm going to tell the world it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Namaste.
An hour, 18 minutes older than what you were 18 minutes ago. So you had said that well, you said that you're kind of awakening. I mean, you've been awakened, but you really want to help others to understand their gifts and to discover who they are and what talents lie in. And I'm just wondering, like, what ways that you may help people with that?
Well, I think mainly it's about self-discovery, and you was mentioning earlier about the ego, and we've got one, and I, I'm very aware of mine. I woke up at a young age, and I felt that I wasn't kind of part of this world, like almost as if I was from another place. Lots of my friends throughout the world, throughout life, have called me an alien because I had a very different outlook on things. The systems,
not mainstream, so to speak, or what they thought you should believe and be like.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I've never really complied with the norm. It didn't feel right. It kind of felt like it was keeping us in a lower vibrational energy. Mm-hmm. And I still feel like that today, that we're kind of left there. And so really, when it comes to that, I think it'd be nice to be able to talk to others that are, waking up and help guide them, really, talk to them and discover how they feel, what's real to them. A lot of people pretend to be something they're not, whether it's, a worker, or we have all these labels: parent, teacher, even our race, religion, the country, nationality that we're from. And really, it's kind of, for me, it's like once you abstract yourself from all of those things, what's left? The being within.
Right, exactly. Yep, all the labels are taken off, and it's who you are at your core.
Yeah, and I'm finding, lately that I really knew who I was, as most people do. It's just accepting it within yourself, letting your ego, really not getting rid of your ego, because when you try to push it aside, it can create all sorts of, a friend of mine called it washing machine head, where you get all kinds of thoughts going around in your mind, should I, could I, would I should have, maybe I shouldn't have, and all of those other judgments, the self-judgments. And when you kind of, learn to be with them and step back and just kind of go with the chain of thoughts and allow them to be there, like almost like a waterfall, and you step back and watch them go down without putting any real energy into each one. And that's something that has helped me a lot to really accept who I am.
Sometimes I see it as you're kind of watching the thoughts go by, and you're not always, you're I think we're all a work in progress on this, but we're learning not to respond and maybe in the way that we had in the past. Just saying, okay, I'm thinking that, kind of waiting for them to, it's kind of like the crowd, waiting for the crowd to leave, and then, almost like, I don't know, getting real, understanding what's happening, and the best way to respond.
Yeah, I think it's also about trying not to react,
Right.
emotionally or physically in
Right.
any way.
Yeah.
And just being with that moment, living in the present moment more. You know what I mean? Not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, actually experiencing what's happening right at this moment.
Right. Right. And sometimes, it's a process. There's forgiveness, and there's, I think I mentioned not taking maybe the response of someone as personally as we would like, or as we think we need to, just kind of saying, well, that's kind of where that person is at that time. And then, sometimes the best response is no response.
Yeah, inaction is a form of action,
Hmm. Hmm.
in
So,
essence.
yeah. And so, some of the questions that you had mentioned was, you would talk, like, has being psychic something you've known that you were, that you are, yeah, that you were at a younger age, or was it something that you came to learn as the years kind of went by?
I've always known that I had gifts. I didn't know that they was any different. No, I assumed everybody had them. Everybody was capable. I know that everybody is. I'm very intuitive. I see things like in a video format. Even from a young age, there'd be a situation, and I would almost see. I'm going to say like CCTV screens,
Uh-huh.
and I've had all of these CCTV screens in my mind's eye, and one of them would come into focus, and that would be the one that would be the right one. And I've
Okay.
ignored a lot of that intuition throughout most of my life. I've always
Very,
found,
very clairvoyant.
yeah, definitely. I'm very empathic, and it's caused me a lot of ego heartache and pain and emotional trauma.
Hmm.
Feeling, I used to walk down the street, and people would maybe think something or feel something, and it took quite a long time for me to realize that those aren't actually my feelings
Yes.
or my emotions, they're other people's. It wasn't
Right.
really until I got into my like sort of late 20s, nearly 30s, that I started to look into Reiki and energy healing and understanding what was really going on. It caused me quite a lot of anxiety in my life, and I assume that others, going along this journey, because a lot of us waking up with this age of Aquarius, are having
Right.
similar problems,
Hmm.
and it can be very isolated when you don't realize what psychic is a word, it is a label, if you will. And so, yeah, I've always had gifts. My grandmother's very in tune as well. She's very psychic. She
Hmm.
can read somebody, in a moment.
Wow.
I've always had that ability.
And so she was probably very empathic too, and a lot of times it's, especially when you're older, it's wisdom, life
Mm.
experience and everything, and I think that, along with understanding what the gifts are and what your gifts are, I think that it can help us, to understand. But another thing is, I mean, we're all born with with gifts, with intuition, and most of us have probably not had them, or had not ever realized, because it was never spoken about, as they were growing up or among their friends, so they didn't really understand. But yet it was like they knew there was something different, You know, they knew it was like they could. I mean, you know, they might have felt deeply, you know, for others and things, and not understanding why it was so overwhelming for them, you know, until they understood what empathy was, or you know, or being empathic was. And I think once we understand these things and know how to cope with them, you know, like, I mean, I didn't learn about grounding till I was practically 50. And I'm like, gee, I would have liked to have known that, you know, at the 10 years
sure.
old.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, because I can remember, you know, even as a young child, I was very overwhelmed by, you know, loud, loud voices, and, you know, a lot of people. And I never, I mean, I thought there was something really terribly wrong with me. You know, I thought it was shyness. And I thought, you know, I mean, I wasn't unsociable. I was just, you know, I was just overly empathic and overwhelmed by a lot of stimulus, you know. And so 50 years later, they're finding out, oh, it's, you know, it's a sensory issue. It's, you know, it's ADD. It's, you know, it's all these things. I mean, they, you know, there weren't even words for it. It was a label. She's shy, you know. So, I think, you know, I think we're finding that, you know, that a lot of these things that are labeled as disabilities, or, you know, or problems, it's in how we process through our senses, you know, physical stimuli and, you know, concrete things that happen in our life, but also, you know, the gifts that we have that weren't ever realized. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. You know, a lot of, I mean, I feel extracted my ego from it, that you know, my gifts are quite strong, and being so young when I was aware of them, that I did feel very different. You know, I didn't feel part of the world. Mm-hmm. You know, I did feel that I was, I used to think I was special in some way, you know. I know that isn't the case, but that's the way it felt. Like I was different from everybody else.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and it's taken decades to really understand.
Well, I also think that, you know, we're realizing how compartmentalized, you know, our lives are, you know,
sure.
and how, you know, how we thought, you know, being different, or I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. You know, I mean, like, you know, like we're it's like we're not, you know, the saying of we're all one. We kind of grew up thinking that we're, you know, all total individuals. I mean, we are individuals, but we're all one too. And I'm still trying to totally understand that myself.
I mean, I would always extract away, you know, the 2.3 children, the white picket fence, the mortgage. That wasn't for me. And never has been. It doesn't feel that is all of what we are and what we're capable of and what we should be doing, you know. That lower vibrational energy, the way we're brought up at school, the way we're taught to do as we're told, to do as we're told, to do as we're told. It just doesn't, it has never felt right to me. That authoritarian kind of indoctrination has never felt right to me.
Yeah,
and I've struggled through life because of it. I still struggle with it now.
Well, I think in many ways I was like that too. You know, like I didn't believe everything I was told. You know, like I didn't believe there was a Santa Claus. But I had to pretend because I had younger brothers and sisters, you know.
I didn't teach my kids about Santa Claus as it goes because my sister was absolutely distraught when she found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. And, you know, and it affected her, like, psychologically, mentally even.
Wow.
For quite a few years. I mean, she's cool now. She's okay now. But, she, you know, she cried and all sorts of things. And So I didn't tell my kids that there was a Santa Claus. I told them from day one that, you know, it's me that gets these gifts for you.
Uh-huh.
And I never said to them, hey, if you're, you know, it gets used, doesn't it? Like, if you're naughty, if you don't do as you're told, if you don't do this, then Santa won't do this for you. It creates this, like, falsity against your own children, you know, and I've never actually did that with my kids.
Yeah.
Well,
I can remember 2 instances. I had that our church had a bazaar, and there was a Santa Claus there, and I knew who the Santa Claus was. I was like 5 or 6, so I was not too impressed, and I let my mother know that. But then I kept on going back and forth because my siblings still believed. And remember, in 2nd grade, we had to write a letter to Santa Claus. And I thought, oh, maybe it'll really go to Santa Claus. 2 or 3 days later, I realized my parents are reading the letter out loud, thinking I'm not around. So I'm like, there's no Santa Claus. So, you know, but I mean, it took me like 2 or 3 years to finally understand. And then as some of my siblings began to realize the truth, then it was easier. And it wasn't traumatic for me. It was just a big farce in my mind. But I mean, and I think that there's a lot of things like that, you know, and I think that we're learning that a lot of our familiar plans, our familiar patterns of, okay, all right, we'll hold at that.
Okay.
About angels. Then join Peg Jones on OTCR's Wednesday's Whispers. Peg will guide you to just a glimpse of heaven through her knowledge of angels. Join Peg Jones for Wednesday's Whispers, only on OTCR. Shines and shares its light with you.
Okay, and welcome back. And thank you, Linda, for your comments. I've just noticed them just this minute because it was brought to my attention. I was not ignoring them, I just didn't know they were there. Um, and that's interesting that you say Syrians are have ADD because I believe that I very possibly do have that, and I've been told by you that I am Syrian. So I find that interesting. And welcome back, Stu. And
Hi.
uh, I guess to finish my sentence in mid sentence was I guess I think we're beginning to understand the. I mean, I think we've always known, but I think we're really beginning to understand the effects of early, our early bringing up. And I mean, I always think of creativity, how
Ah,
when we first, I mean, because I've taught preschoolers for years, and I mean, they a lot of times, there was like specific ways they had to color. They had to color inside the lines. They had to cut a certain, project a certain way, put it together a certain way, and and if they didn't do it right, then they were kind of looked upon as, well, you're not following directions. You're not creative, and that kind of just, I think, for some kids, just kind of, excuse for a lack of word, it just kind of ended the creativity.
oh,
And
for sure.
and I can see that in my own life. And I mean, like I can remember, I had it in my head in first grade that I couldn't draw, so and I just said, I can't draw. I'm not going to draw. And and I kind of spent my entire life thinking that I still probably can't draw, but I draw in my own way, And I think, that's what we have to impress upon children is that, that they are creative,
The
and
thing is creativity gets stifled, and pushed into it's an ego thing again.
yeah,
Creativeness is free form. It comes from the right brain. Logic comes from the left side of the brain. To be logical is to follow instructions, whereas to be creative, there is no instructions,
right, right.
And that gets completely stifled from a very young age.
It
I mean,
does.
even down to small things like not letting your children play with mud or put
Yep.
stone or put worms in their mouth. You know,
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I think that's what I always thought school, teaching was to let kids experience, have different experiences through different mediums. And I always made sure of that too, that they had that because I really thought it was important.
something that
Um,
really helped me with my drawing. There's a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. I don't know if you've
I've
heard of it.
heard that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's an absolutely awesome book.
Yeah.
And one thing that really helped me with that was literally drawing things upside down. You get you literally get a picture or something that you're going to draw, whether it's a painting or a photograph. It doesn't really matter. And you turn it upside down, and it disengages the logic brain and allows you to concentrate more on the shapes of things.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the if you try this yourself, you'll discover that the form that you have at the end of the creative experience is
Uh-huh.
much more like the form that you was trying to replicate. Whereas with the logic mind, when it's up the right way, it says this is an arm, this is a leg, this is a nose, this is a head, or this is a flower, this is a stem, this is a leaf. When you flip it upside down, you end up forgetting those things, and you go, circle. Next to it is a rectangle, and then there's a square, and then a and it
Yeah.
forms more into the shapes of things rather
Mhm.
than the actual logic of what the object is. And for
Uh-huh.
me, I found that makes my drawing miles better. I mean, I used
Yeah.
to do animation at university, and I used to draw a lot of my animations upside down, which freaked the teacher out to no end.
Because it wasn't the way she was teaching everybody.
No, I've always looked outside the dodecahedron.
Well, yeah, I mean, I probably didn't pick up a paintbrush. I mean, I was probably teaching it every day and, helping, encouraging kids to do it, but I never did it myself all those years. And a couple of years ago, I did pick up a paintbrush and I just started doing, I just started painting different things. And in a lot of ways, it was very juvenile, but it was like, hey, it's my style, it'll get better at some point if it needs to. But
who'd say it's juvenile? Is that you judging your own creativity?
Oh, I mean, definitely.
Creativity comes from the child mind, right?
Exactly. So that's where I kind of was stuck, I guess.
Get some crayons and put them in both hands and scribble everywhere and see what comes of it.
Yeah. But I've always liked doing crafty type things too, and so that, I guess, was my creativity, my young adult years.
I've never really tended to say I can't. I've always said I'll have a go. This, I might not be the best at it,
Right.
I don't remember really when that came about. It's just that I think it was my gran. I can't remember what she said. There was a saying she used to say years ago now, and it was about I can't remember. I wish I could remember it because it'd be really appropriate. But basically, it was like they say try again.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to do something, Yoda says there is no try. There is either can or cannot, or do not. There's do or do not. There is no try. So when you're trying to do something, in essence, that's the learning. That's the education.
Yeah, and repetition, helps with all that too. And Linda speaks about the spirograph. I always wanted a spirograph, but I never got one. I have this Etch-a-Sketch. And I love that. I could spend hours on the Etch-a-Sketch. And I also enjoy coloring a lot, too. That was one thing that I really enjoyed. I always wanted... I had a neighbor that had a spirograph, as I remember, and I always wanted to use it. And I think I did once or twice, and I thought that was cool. What else did we used to do? I used to do things like weaving, making pot holders, a weaving loom. Well, those childish square things. And whatever we did in school.
I think music's good for that as well. I mean, I played guitar since I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
And that really opens you to a different way of being, living in the moment. And music can be quite logical and sort of linguistic, very from a language point of view. At the same time, if you extract yourself from that and just pick up a drum and just bang it, and then you close your eyes, and the next thing you're grounded and you're in that moment, and the rhythm and the beats. There's no rules to that, really.
No. I used to like singing. I remember I was in choirs in high school and college and different times. And we sang in parts and all that. Musical instruments, I really wasn't. It wasn't something that was encouraged, probably because there were so many in the family. But it just wasn't something that was encouraged when I was growing up.
So. It's something I read a long time ago. It was from Make Your Child Brilliant, about piano, engaging. My kids, I bought them keyboards when they was, 2 or 1 or something silly like that. My son got a drum kit when he was like 1 and he couldn't even play it, couldn't even sit at it. Yet, when you engage both hands and both sides of the brain, you know, those synaptic pathways, they're there for life. You know, they become there for life, and it really changes the way you see the world and view others, and also the way you experience, for me anyway, at least.
No, I agree with that. And I mean, there was always music, but to have that experience of playing in my life at that time, that wasn't really there, I don't think. You know, we would sing songs and stuff like that, play singing games, but playing instruments was like, I don't know, it could have been the school system I was in, you know, or just the times. But now I'm seeing my nieces and nephews, you know, playing instruments and everything, and it's really lovely to see. It's almost like it totally skipped a generation in my family anyways. But I think that they also had the opportunities more present, and there are probably more programs happening, you know, in the last 10 or 20 years than maybe where I was growing up and things like that.
I think plus things like YouTube as well. I mean, you could right now go onto YouTube and type piano lesson, saxophone lesson, drum, any instrument you want.
Oh yeah.
And you can learn how to play right now. You know.
Yeah. And it was like
that didn't exist.
You know, at that time, it was an expense probably to take lessons and stuff, and that just wasn't going to happen. I mean, I did have a few siblings that did take up the guitar, you know, and one was classically taught, and one kind of picked it up himself, you know, as a teenager. But those, you know, that was really the only ones I think that really did anything like that. But now I think it's really important for kids to have that, you know, because I think it helps them in their thinking and in their confidence, and it's, you know, it's something that they've accomplished with, you know, with study and practice. So I think that it's also, you know, like if you're in an orchestra or something, a school orchestra, it's helping you to work as a group, you know, and to perform something beautiful. And it's something that they, you know, that could be a lifelong thing for them, you know, something they might want to get really serious in, or just to have it as some type of hobby. I remember I used to have we used to make instruments too. Like we'd make, like when I was teaching, we'd make drums. We made like castanets and
nice.
You know, have, you know, our little band. You know, we'd have like a band time with other little, you know, and they go marching around the classroom, and it was wild, but it was a lot of fun. You know, and that's I don't remember that, you know, when I was growing up at all. But
when I was helping out the homeless, I still helped them a little bit, but not as much as I used to. There was a thing called junk drummers, and via drum runners. And basically, what we did was we'd get junk, plastic tubes, beads, you know, oil barrels, and we'd make instruments out of them. And actually on my SoundCloud, as it happens, there's something called Serenity Sound, and most of that is junk drums. And the interesting thing about that is like all of these people that had never really played instruments before, or didn't even really know each other, all of a sudden we'd made these weird and wonderful contraptions, you know, and we was making music.
That's cool.
And it was beautiful. It was an absolutely beautiful energy.
I think I've seen videos on that, on how they did that in South America or something. And it was just from common, you know, objects, you know, different. types of plastic or what, just different types of things. And you know what? And I just hope that they do continue the music programs in school, because here in the U.S., anyways, there's been a lot of cuts with those types of programs. And
well, that's what the community's for, really, isn't it? I mean, it's up to us to take that over, really. Like with our little isolated lives and our isolated families and our individuality that's been kind of forced upon us, and with cuts and austerity measures and all the rest of it, it's isolating the community to a point where, in some places, people walk down the street, they don't even smile, they don't say good morning, they don't say hello. I mean, and I think that the only way to get that back is for families and parents especially to actually do this themselves.
I think that can, be helpful too, to have community creativity programs. And I think in many communities it is done, through park and rec programs and, the Wise and different things like that. And I think the parents are really fighting for that to remain somehow, whether it is in the school or within the community. So we have like 6 minutes left, and I haven't even asked half of the questions that we had talked about. So I did want to talk a little bit about angels, because you had wanted to speak about them, and so I was just going to ask you what your experience is in working with angels and how you connect with them.
Well, as regards to that, I mean, I speak mainly with Michael. I don't really know all of the angels so much. Archangel Michael and Metatron have been in my life for quite some time. I call upon them for guidance. I use Michael as a way to ground. Metatron's more of a channel for me. Guidance and such things.
Right.
And I speak with Kuan Yin, Ascended Master. I didn't. Then the weird thing about that is the name came into my mind's eye a long time ago, and I didn't really pay much attention to it when I was looking for guides. When I learnt about guides, and it wasn't until some years later that I realised that she's a goddess of compassion and mercy. And as an empathic, sort of compassionate being, it seemed rather fitting that she was the master that called out to me, if you will. I know the angels are around me. I've been told so when I did a psychic circle, a medium circle, some years ago.
I definitely feel the angels are with you, and I feel that they're truly guiding you on your path, and I think Michael's there to help you. I mean, it's kind of what he does, but he's kind of helping you to kind of to feel safe and to feel protected, and to kind of keep you on, kind of guide you on your path, as you're walking along, as you're going along it, and to kind of keep you on a, so to speak, even keel, to just kind of
balanced,
stay balanced. Yes.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, and I mean, he does it for all of us, and the way that we can truly understand how that, is for us, and he helps us in speaking our truth, and, and just kind of staying on our path too, helping us to go beyond what we think we can do too, is also a big part of what Michael's all about. At least for me, he is. So, do you work with Archangel Gabriel or Archangel Raphael too? Also,
I haven't. No, I should though.
Yeah.
It's only really been Michael that has influenced me so much, and Kuan Yin. I haven't really worked with all of the angelic realm or all of the energies. It's not so. I don't know. It's fairly new to me. I mean, I know that I knew what from the Bible, and obviously I'm Christian, so I knew of Raphael and Uriel and Michael, but I didn't really connect with them so much.
Right. Yeah.
It's more the Christ energy, that's where I started with it, with spirit, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and, and I think as time goes on, that's something that, you might want to check into a little bit more, too. And I think that they're going to reveal themselves to you, too, really soon.
I did have a night of light, but we'll have to talk about that another time.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have to have you back on again, and maybe we can talk about some of the angels and finish the rest of the questions that we never got to.
Beautiful.
So I just want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight, and I wish you luck
having me
in everything that you do, and I look forward to what you can offer, and as to how you can, or how you are being a part of our team, and and how that's going to help the easing and everything else that we are doing too. So thank you very much.
Namaste.
And I want to thank Sprinkles for our fearless editor and publisher, and thank her for being the engineer, and we'll see you next week. And thank you everyone for being in the chat room too, Linda and whoever else who is there who's not showing their face. Maybe next time you'll want to talk a little bit more too, and that would be fantastic. So wishing everyone a great week, a great Labor Day weekend for those that are celebrating that, and the start of new things. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of the OTCR, its affiliates, and or sponsors.